Yeah, so thanks, Jeff, for inviting us. Nice to meet yourself and Ben in person and know that you're more than just a Zoom tile. And my CEO, Adam, who's supposed to present here, he sends his regrets. So I'm kind of just pinch hitting for him, so picking up that presentation as we go along. But I'm going to take you to, I guess, like a little bit more of a niche example of how we integrate measurement throughout a sports sponsorship campaign. Tough to follow up the work that you guys just did, Ryan and Snapchat here, but yeah, follow along with me, and I'll start off by giving you a little bit of background because SPIQE, we're just a small piece in the entire product portfolio that kind of falls under Ascend Sport Technology. So this is the continuum that we work across, really. So the main flagship of AIM actually starts with just the LED boards that you see in the perimeter, primarily of soccer fields. So they got their start at the 2010 World Cup. They outfit every venue with LEDs. Since then, they've gone on to work with Real Madrid being the most recognizable client, PSG, Chelsea, across UEFA for everything, including the last summer's Euro Championships. Obviously, because we've got the LED technology, we also have an in-house studio that designs all the creatives that go on LEDs. So thinking about how the placements look not just in stadium, but also how they're picked up from the broadcast side. As we start to work with more of these clubs and understanding soccer's global appeal, we've now developed a digital overlay. So we can, similar to what the NHL does, that's probably the most tangible example in North America. So we can make it look like it's a different brand for a broadcast in Asia or LATAM than it is in the European games. And that actually allows us to also run like a spin-off agency. So yeah, I'm kind of walking you through the twisted web here. We have a spin-off agency that sells global rights for 10 European soccer clubs and 4 in Liga MX as well. And then we come in on the measurement side on that tail end of that sports sponsorship continuum. So SPIQE is a measurement arm of Ascend AIM as a whole. We're born out of an acquisition of Fan AI. We did deterministic retail attribution for sports sponsorships. So trying to get down to that, what is that ultimate ROI of that sponsorship investment? We've since padded it with a couple of other solutions to help complement brands and feed them with measurement solutions, not just at that bottom of funnel piece, but throughout the campaign. And that's what I'll kind of tell you a story of how it is that we've implemented it across the entire product portfolio. So this is just the example here that kind of begets the why our studio exists here. So this is a match here, Mexico, Germany. Germany's just gotten scored on. Had I known we were going to have folks visiting from Germany, I might have picked a different screenshot. But in that blue wall there, this is where brands advertise during the match, right? So we have an idea of how much media value we're going to get based on we're going to have this many minutes across this many matches. This many are going to be televised. We can layer over top a logo detection, or I shouldn't say we, there are other companies out there that do logo detection to try to give you more of that ROI. What is that actual realized media value? But none of that matters if that animation is not optimized. So in this example here, pretty important moment in the match. It gets photographed, it gets rebroadcast. I can't tell you what brand was on the LEDs there because this picture was captured mid-animation. So everything there that should have been realized additional media value for the brand is actually just zeros. So that's the first thing that we're trying to solve. So this is where the testing come in. This is where we've done studies with I2 as well as other partners like Nielsen. So in trying to optimize how these ads are displayed, again, not just in stadium, but also in broadcast, we start pretty simple. Like, how do we gain more visibility out of what's already a very limited vertical space that's taking up your screen, right? So how do we optimize for logo size? This is a study that we did with Microsoft. So pretty simple stuff, but this still gets you a little bit of pushback because sometimes the sizes that we recommend exist outside of what brand guidelines might be. This is where a little bit of a sales job goes in into trying to sell that vision into a brand that's very protective of those guidelines. So that's probably the first example there. How do we get more legibility, especially as more content is consumed on mobile, where now you're fighting for even more finite real estate. The second is, this one was a little bit more interesting here. As we trained that digital overlay model, thousands upon thousands of soccer games that we were ingesting there, we were looking at where were ideal activation zones to insert animations, and where did we want to also maintain that brand logo so that we avoid that blue screen of death, we'll call it, that blue screen effect that we saw in the previous picture, right? So that we know at least that if you were Microsoft or if you were Heineken, your logo is still going to be present somewhere there. And so we did this two ways. Again, not just looking at from the different camera angles, what were the most prominent angles that we were going to encounter in a soccer match, but also looking at eye tracking and seeing like where could we divert eye lead during those matches. So now we have an idea of not just the size, but where to activate, what might be the hotspots there, and where we need to make sure to maintain that brand logo. Third one is just looking at how quickly people were able to capture product placements or just visuals as opposed to another brand logo, like making that a little bit more interesting. But also people, as we know, can tie those pieces together a lot quicker rather than having to read messaging, read another logo. They can tie that visual, especially if it's a recognizable piece. Like everybody knows the Coke bottle shape. I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people do. Or a yellow M&M peanuts packet. And so I can make that tie a little bit quicker just by picking that up that visual as opposed to reading a messaging. And then the last one is the research that we did with Nielsen around the 2017 Champions League. So the original study was actually with Sony, but we looked at testing an actual like text message that would display on the LED, as opposed to product placement of one of their smartphones. And we found that Sony got increases in aided and unaided brand lift, as well as purchase consideration from that. I put in the Heineken example there because that's just a little bit of a nod to our studio team, but that one is a 3D render of an actual Heineken bottle that we did, and we've patented how to make it look a little bit 3D from the TV viewing angle as well. But we also believe in putting in that product placement piece where we can. So using that digital overlay piece, we can now insert that into that sandbox test environment. We just pick a match. We've got hundreds of different ads in our catalog that we can kind of cycle through. And this is a test clip that we would do now that we've got an idea of how to create that creative element for the brand. We'll test it, make sure we have it right, capture some data on it, refine it before we actually put it into the field or before they go into placing it in venues throughout the world of soccer. We can control this as well for different lengths, but this is these are the pieces that we've partnered with Ben and the team at I2 for. Is we now take that video and we conceal the design. We try to remove that bias from the respondent. Just watch a 2-minute, 1-minute clip of the soccer match, and then we ask the questions afterwards before we reveal the actual intent of the test. So, and because it's all in context, like I don't know how many respondents we'd get if we said, watch this 90-minute soccer match, and then we're going to ask you questions of advertisers. But at least it's a little bit closer into that context from just watch this 2-minute clip of a soccer match, and then we try to ask questions from the advertisers. And obviously with the tools that the team here has, we can create a little bit more of a story that can help the brand pin down how much is that creative actually driving those business outcomes, and is it getting us closer to what we're actually trying to achieve beyond just placing a logo on a wall. So I think Ben, the last study that we would have done, we looked at messaging for a global airline. And we were trying to figure out, is the world's best airline or fly to this location, which one is more captivating, but then also trying to go a little bit more, like working a little bit of a consultative with brands where we can say, hey, this message works great. We can do this A/B test. But if you want to try to compete with other airlines, here's the type of messaging that resonates with them more. And here's what we can capture a little bit more of that persuadable audience as well. So this part is where like the SPIQE product starts to come into play and a little bit more of that top middle of funnel. But we then at SPIQE, we've got access to a sport audience graph where we capture over 90% of the US adult population, digital behavior, device IDs, over 1,800 categories. And then we can start to then amplify that message. So if, for example, a brand like Adidas here is trying to go after soccer fans in the US, but maybe in a particular team, we can pull that audience segment. They can start to think about how they craft a campaign, not just on the LEDs, but maybe leveraging that partnership with a team or within a particular market, and get the messaging in front of the right person at the right time with that right message that's going to be captivating to them from that behavior that we've captured. So if they are Inter Miami fan and we're looking to create an activation in the Miami area or South Florida, then we can give them that audience segment and then they can go deploy ads programmatically as well. And the last piece that we do at SPIQE, and this is where the Fan AI piece comes over, is trying to get down to that ultimate question of like, what is the actual ROI, the financial ROI of that sports sponsorship investment? So on the left-hand side, we try to capture who fans are, and we try to make sure that we work hand in hand with the brand to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of cataloging fans. So we look at TV viewership, who's watching matches, apparel purchases, are you buying jersey or hats, ticketing, who's going to games, and then digital behavior as well. Are you searching for your team, following them online, to establish that fan graph? So we don't just use the audience graph as part of it, we do get smart TV data and data from other providers as well to create that graph. On the flip side, it's all just purchase data, right? So we're getting loyalty program purchase data, credit card data. We can match to company CRMs as well. And then in blending those two, we have a theoretical exposed audience, which is that crossover of fans who are also purchasing. And we can compare them to people who are already purchasing from that brand. Try to get a little bit more of a lift, like again, did this actually bump in sales? Did seasonality have an impact on it? Do they buy more? Do they buy more often? What's their churn? And so trying to get down again to more of those tangible financial aspects of business outcomes they might want to achieve through their sports sponsorship campaign. And yeah, so it's a bit of a niche, I guess, story to tell of how everything kind of works together, but that's us at SPIQE in summary.
Very good.